Isn't it amazing how often the police get it wrong? You have to go back not that many years to see when it all started, when they all started to get a bit politically correct, when they started using different terms, when they started talking about the ethnicity of people who were arrested, or when they didn't talk about the ethnicity of people who were arrested. Go all the way back to Southport in 2024 and that horrible, ghastly episode where the man who I do not name attacked young girls in a dance class dedicated to Taylor Swift. He was described by the police as Welsh. He was described by the police as a choir boy. It turned out that the police deliberately misled the public while at the same time telling them not to speculate. Same thing happened with Henry Novak, with the most recent case, the 18-year-old boy who was stabbed to death and was visited by the police as he was dying and told, "I don't think you've been stabbed, mate. You've been racially abusing this other guy who's the one with the knife." What a terrible, terrible indictment of the way that the police operate. Well, now we've got Devon and Cornwall police who don't seem to know their arse from their elbow. They came out on Sunday after having arrested the wrong man for the murder of Ann Widdecombe to say that they'd arrested a new man for the murder of Ann Widdecombe, but there was definitely no political motivation for the murder. Have a look at what they had to say at the weekend.
Our investigation into the death of 78-year-old Ann Widdecombe has continued to develop over the past 24 hours. Shortly after 9 p.m. on Saturday, the 11th of July, a 28-year-old white British man was arrested at an address in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, on suspicion of the murder of Miss Widdecombe. We were supported by officers from Counter-Terrorism Police North East and South Yorkshire Police who carried out the arrest on behalf of Devon and Cornwall. Miss Widdecombe's family have been informed of the updates and continue to be supported by our specialist officers. Our thoughts remain with her family and friends at this incredibly difficult time. At this point, there is still no information to suggest that this is a terrorism-related incident, and at this point, we are not looking for anyone else in connection with this murder. We retain primacy of this investigation, and detectives remain open-minded about the potential motive. At this stage, there is nothing to suggest that it was politically motivated. A cordon is still in place as officers continue inquiries at the scene, and we anticipate...
So no political motivation then, according to the Deputy Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police. Here are the front page headlines this morning. Ann Copp's terror probe, that's the Sun. Widdecombe's murder was political, Daily Mail. Widdecombe murder case taken over by terror cops, The Times. Police under fire over Widdecombe case, The Telegraph. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. People make mistakes. People are willing to accept that, the police included. But they didn't make a mistake. They deliberately tried to mislead the public, because how could they possibly know there was no political involvement if they hadn't searched the bloke's house? They've now searched the bloke's house and searched his devices and discovered that actually, there was a political motivation. So why say it in the first place? All they've done is upset the family that they keep saying they want to protect and mislead the public. So now we've got the terror police from the southeast of England in charge of the case. We still don't know whether there's anybody else involved. They said there isn't. But how do we know that's true? Because they might have got that wrong as well. Just ridiculous. So it's time to say to the police in this country, get a grip, guys. You're supposed to be capable. You're supposed to be able to arrest the bad guys. We can't expect you to stop every crime that's going to be committed. But if there is a crime committed, at least try and get the investigation of it right. It's not asking too much, is it? It's like me turning up in the morning and not being able to speak. It's your job. Find out what's going on. Don't lie to the public. And do your bloody job. It's that simple, isn't it? That's my meltdown for the day. So, we're into the last half hour of the show. It's 9:30 already. Can't believe it. Kelvin Mackenzie coming up at 10 o'clock on UK Live Online. We've got a new website, by the way, which is very exciting stuff. And also, we've now even got a merch store where you can buy stuff. Donald's merch store, it's called. One size fits all. He's only got T-shirts in one size, but don't worry, because they do fit everybody pretty much. It has to be said. Ted Newson's here. Ted, very good to see you.
Good morning to you,
Thanks
Mike.
for coming in.
Thank you.
A good day to come in as well, because a couple of interesting stories on the front page of the, well, 2 or 3 actually, on the front pages this morning. We've got Ed Miliband, who apparently now is going to approve some North Sea oil drilling, because apparently he thinks that will help him become Chancellor of the Exchequer, because it will calm the markets. I mean, this is a guy who's been a net zero zealot for longer than I can remember. Why has he suddenly changed his tune?
Yeah, well, it's blatant opportunism, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
For years and years, we've had, even before the election, Ed Miliband was saying, we're not going to drill in the North Sea. This is an ironclad commitment. We've got to get to net zero. We've got to get off this roller coaster of fossil fuels. No to Jackdaw, no to Rosebank.
Yeah.
And in this kind of massive net zero U-turn that he's gone about with, he's said, no, actually, we're going to approve Jackdaw, as long as I get Chancellor, of course. Let's just settle the markets.
You sure he's not trying to apply for a job with the Devon and Cornwall Police, Captain U-turn, because that's what he's good at, right?
Clueless.
Yeah, completely clueless, but also really shameless. This is the thing that I find extraordinary with these people, is that they're just completely shameless. They'll tell you one thing yesterday, and then today they'll go, oh yeah, well that was yesterday.
Absolutely. I don't know how he defends it to himself, and I think what he's doing is, because he's looking to approve Jackdaw but not to approve Rosebank. Rosebank was the oil one, Jackdaw is the gas one.
Okay.
He's probably defending himself as, oh no, we haven't gone ahead with the oil one. This is just the gas. This is a bit cleaner. But honestly, the amount of horrible language, he called drilling in Rosebank a climate catastrophe, I think. So what's the difference between that and Jackdaw?
Yeah, right. Because I was hearing somebody talking this morning on another station on the way into work that we've got probably at least another 10 years or so of the requirement to use gas for most of the heating that the country needs, right? So even if he didn't drill in Jackdaw for more gas, we'd still be using gas for the next 10 years anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he comes out and, a spokesman for Ed Miliband said this morning that he's not a zealot, which only a very zealoty MP would probably get someone to go out and say.
That's like a guy saying, I'm not in the mafia, right?
I know.
I'm not in the mafia.
Well, he's decommissioned a third of our refining capacity in, 2 years since the election?
Right.
The last carbon budget, he said he wanted dietary changes. He wanted people to adopt a more plant-based diet.
Yeah.
Ludicrous.
No bacon for him then.
No bacon for him, of course.
Yeah,
only vegan sandwiches.
Yeah, unbelievable. The other interesting one today, which is going on, is the National Grid blackout story. I was talking to Catherine the other day about this. Catherine, what's her name?
Catherine Porter.
Hey?
Porter.
Catherine Porter, that's right. Sorry, my brain went blank there for a minute. And she was talking about this, that the National Grid has been several times this year under severe pressure and has come very close to blackouts, partly because of their reliance on wind and solar and not getting it right, not getting the mix right. But there now is an actual investigation going on inside of the National Grid because people have been trying to cover it up and they don't want us to know just how fragile the National Grid actually is.
This is an unelected quango that is dedicated to keeping the grid balanced, and by their own mandate, they've failed.
Yeah.
And so they've been covering their own tracks, or at least that's what it looks like. You look at the whistleblower that reported to Claire Coutinho the other day about these cover-ups, and it seems like it's been happening on a grand scale. And is what the Global Warming Policy Foundation has been saying for years now, that they're not being truly upfront with the figures. Intermittency is costing our bill payers, and it's actually costing our energy security. And someone like Catherine Porter has now come out and said that there's a reasonable chance of regional blackouts and a 5 to 10 chance, I believe, of full-scale grid failure.
Well, she was telling me that it's been literally seconds away from a blackout, or what they used to call in America a brownout, where it's just a slightly lesser version of it, where it's a little bit more localised. But still, we don't really know how this National Grid operation works, do we? Because they don't really tell us what their capacities are. They don't tell us what their protocols are. What do you understand them to be in terms of what the mix is meant to be?
Well, I think they like to cloud the debate. I think they like to make it sound very clever. In essence, what it is when we can, we will use wind and solar panels.
Yeah.
Essentially, because it's got no marginal cost to it, doesn't cost any more to blow a bit more wind or for the sun to shine a bit more. Right. It's a low marginal cost. But what they forget is that the wind isn't always blowing and the sun's not always shining. So when that doesn't happen, they need the backup capacity. And that comes from gas and, well, it used to come from coal. Yeah. And now we don't have that. So we're looking towards nuclear, albeit very slowly. Ed Miliband is, I think he's nuclear curious at best. But that's the best you could say about it.
Nuclear curious. Wasn't there a big sort of announcement by Starmer at one point in the first year of his government about building these small modular nuclear power stations around the country? What's happened to that then?
Well, the whole government's gone quiet on it. I was speaking to a former energy minister the other day. He thinks they're a racket. I'm not sure. I haven't heard enough about them. But, well, that's probably due to the government because they've completely dropped it.
But this is the thing. This is what's marked Starmer's. Starmer makes a lot of noise about his achievements, and he spent the last 2 weeks telling us about his achievements. But I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff that he said he was going to do that just hasn't happened, isn't it?
Yeah, well, stop the boats, smash the gangs.
Yeah. The modular nuclear power stations that he's going to build.
SMRs, what else? HS2. Get to net zero, that's going to fail. We've been saying it's going to fail for a while. Yeah. HS2 is in the bin. Starmer's in the bin. Burnham's coming in. Yeah. And he's not going to be any better. He's going to be even worse.
What do you reckon his view of net zero is? Because, I mean, he'll presumably flip-flop around on it for a while.
I don't know. I don't know how you can be pro-smoking mills and pro-net zero at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So we'll have to see about that.
Yes. Well, he's very pro the north, isn't he? So
he's very pro the north. You're not going to have many factories in the north if we get to net zero, are you?
No, I don't think so. And then the other great story today for me is the electric vehicle story about how they're trying to introduce this pay-per-mile business, which is not particularly, I know, a net zero style story, but it kind of is, because they've been trying to get everybody into electric cars for so long. Now they're punishing them for getting electric cars, and they're now talking about not only charging them to drive per mile in the UK, but actually charging them for driving on the continent in Europe. So if you take your electric vehicle over to France, as some people we know do, they'll charge you, which seems incredibly outrageous to me.
Crazy. I think the government is rolling back on its subsidies now because they realise the true extent of the green subsidies. I mean, this is billions of pounds we've frittered away on kind of political passion projects rather than looking into an actual grid transition based on nuclear or some kind of firm power as opposed to the windmills.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's just an extraordinary state of affairs. And meanwhile, we've got water companies still that can't produce water. Who ask people not to use it because they'd rather they didn't. Although today, apparently, if you're on benefits, you're told you can use as much as you like. What's the situation with reservoirs? Because maybe you can explain this to me. People always say, the thing is, we haven't built any reservoirs because they're not environmentally sound. What's the actual argument for that?
I'm genuinely speechless if someone's making that argument. That is...
They say, that's what they say.
That is idiotic,
They say
honestly.
That's the reason they haven't built any since like 1991 or 2.
92,
or
that was it.
So the reason is that they're not friendly to the environment, apparently.
We've got a hosepipe ban in Essex, Mike, and it's because we haven't built a reservoir since, I think, the 60s. So you're talking about one of the sunniest and driest parts of the country anyway. Yeah. You add probably millions of people into the county since the last reservoir was built, and then you're surprised when we're running low on water. It's just, they don't understand it.
No, it is extraordinary, isn't it? So we've got a big thing coming up this week that we're involved in it. CPAC is here. I don't know if you guys are involved in it with the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Well, you should be, because it's a bunch of right-wingers getting together to sort out the world.
We should. I'm still tired from ARC, quite frankly, Mike.
Yeah, I bet you are. Absolutely. Well, listen, good to see you, Ted. Ted Newson there from the Global Warming Policy Foundation, trying to make sure that we get some sense around the world of net zero. But I'm not quite sure whether Andy Burnham's going to supply it. Do you reckon Miliband's going to become the next Chancellor of the Exchequer then?
Well, I was checking the Polymarket odds this morning, and it's got him at over 60% to be Chancellor now. So I won't pretend we're not worried. A lot of people are kind of in denial in the organisation, saying, no, it can't possibly happen. You can't possibly do even more damage. But I mean, for a long time, I thought Rachel Reeves was probably one of the most economically illiterate chancellors Britain has ever had.
Yeah.
And now we're saying, oh, let's get Ralph Miliband's son in.
Yeah, right.
Proper crackpot.
Yeah, he really is a crackpot. Very good description of him. I quite like that. Right, well, listen, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you, Mike.
We'll see if we can get you a mention in with Liz Truss at the CPAC thing. A couple of super chats to come. Margaret says it's absolute rubbish that reservoirs are not environmentally sound. Clapworthy Reservoir in Somerset, I remember being built, and it is surrounded with wildlife. I used to take my kids on nature walks there. Well, yeah, of course it's absolute rubbish, but the fact is, it's not me saying it. It's the environmental nutters who think that they can stop any reservoir being built because apparently it disturbs the wildlife. Remember Anne and all she stood for, says Fraser, absolutely. This one from Mr. Malaprop. I turned off UK Live yesterday when Kelvin and his guests repeatedly called a man who spoke so cruelly about Anne a woman. That'll be that Heather creature, no doubt, up in the north of Britain. Anne was a truth speaker in an age of cowardice. I'm bereft. Anne has been taken from us. Should we play that little tribute that we did yesterday to Anne again? Can we do it?
Because I've not uploaded it because you didn't want it.
Well, I said that. Well, I just said keep it, didn't I?
I'll find it.
You can find it, I'm sure. I'll tell you what we can play in the meantime. Molly Kingsley has put a little video out on censorship.
You only have to look at the title, which is it's called Watch This Space. I mean, the whole thing is just full of this Orwellian doublespeak. So, a new strategic direction for UK media. You think, what? It will certainly mean that what you see online in your social media feeds is weighted towards the public service broadcaster content. So I think we can expect that, the kind of independent content that we all produce is going to be buried.
Yes, there's an awful lot of nonsense being spoken about the censorship bill and the online safety bill and the clampdown on free speech, the clampdown on YouTube, the way that the government wants to be able to sort of somehow now redirect your attention to what they call trusted media sources like the BBC and ITV and Sky. Really? So we're going to fight all of that, and of course, as I said earlier, we're going to be at CPAC starting up on Wednesday until Saturday it runs, and it's going to be a collection of all sorts of people, being organised by Liz Truss, former Prime Minister, because the CPAC organisation in America is one of the places where the Trump movement kind of began, and where basically people realised that you could start a fundraising campaigning group which was outside the Republican Party, and so similarly CPAC is outside of any political party. But Nigel Farage is going to be speaking. I'm going on a panel down there with a couple of politicians and a couple of voices from America as well. It's going to be a massive thing, and it's all going on. We'll bring you coverage of it over the course of the next 2 to 3 days.